Okay, yeah. That's another improvisation that you
Yeah,
might have meant for that. But yeah. So what do you do when the crowd's reserved like that? How do you deal with that?
you finish the gig and get the fuck out of there. Something like that.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode. In this one, we have Mr. Warren Mendonsa. He's worked in the Bollywood industry and also has established his own band called Blackstratblues. In this episode, we're going to be talking about it, talking about his life, and a couple of very wholesome things that you'll get to hear along the way. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really hope you enjoyed this one.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. With me I have Warren Mendoza. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. So
Thank you for having me.
we'll just be doing yeah. We'll be doing a few questions, but we'll try to make it as much as like a chat as possible
Sure.
because people really seem to like that, and it's much easier to do. So let's start out with how did you start out in the music industry in the first place? Like when did you start learning it, and what's the first instrument that you played?
I picked up the guitar, I think around the time I was 5. I come from a musical
Oh
family, so
wow.
my parents noticed I had a bit of
Okay.
a ear for it. So they bought me a little guitar when I was 5. Till I was 15, I didn't really take it seriously. So once I got out of school, I had some time on my hands, and that's when I actually started learning. And shortly after that, I formed a band
Okay.
called Zero with some friends. And that's kind of how I got started as a gigging musician, playing gigs. At the same time, I used to work as a recording
Okay.
engineer in a studio. And people noticed that I could play the guitar, and then they would start asking me to put the guitar parts down on, certain things. And then that led to me playing on some Bollywood songs and stuff like that. So yeah, that's how I got started.
I saw a few interviews of yours, or I think on the internet on Google, I saw like an article which said that you don't like the spotlight very well. So
Yeah,
is that something that you have grown to like not liking, or what's your take on it?
yeah, I mean the spotlight comes with, increased expectations and also a lack of privacy in that sense. So I tend to shy away from it. I just like doing my work, and if people like what I do, then great. I don't really I'm one to chase like what some people would think like fame and fortune and everything that goes with it.
You don't like attention.
No, I'll just like doing my work on the side, and let the music should do the
Okay.
talking. That's kind of the thing. Rather than the attention
Yeah.
on me, I'd rather the attention be on the music. That's primarily what I meant by that.
I have a GarageBand on this iPad, and it's weird because when I discovered this a few years back, I think I've been
Mhm.
experimenting around with it. I made a beat yesterday, and I was like, "Wow, I'm a DJ." But so I found out that we have a piano or something, but then they have an option to have guitar sounds on that as well, and
Yeah.
they have drums, but then you can. There's a lot of hybrid stuff going on, but yeah, I mean, do you like that, or do you find it to be like very distracting that original music is not getting recognized now?
That's
That you can
that's
play any instrument on anything.
I don't really think that way, because like what people do with technology is their business. I mean, I know enough about it to
Yeah.
kind of serve my end in that sense. If I have an idea in my head and I want to get it out, then I'll use any
Okay.
tool possible to do it. So I think
Okay. Okay. Okay.
the democratization of musical ability with regards to technology is only going to change, because soon I think you'll probably be able to hear it in your head, and some kind of an AI thing will do the dirty lifting for you. So in that sense, it's all down to what you have in your head. Now, if people hear like brilliant symphonies in their head, and they're using technology to get it out, then cool. It's better than a person who has every musical technique available to them but has nothing in the head in terms of hearing a melody or a song or whatever. So in that sense, it's
Yeah.
all down to what people have going on up here. That's the most important thing, I would think.
Okay. Okay. So you would prefer to use those type of technologies if
If
needed.
needed, if all it needs is just an acoustic guitar, then that's what's needed. And if you need a big symphonic score or something, then you can use that to kind of at least sketch it out. If you don't have the budget to have an orchestra and something like that, then by all
For sure,
means,
definitely.
yeah.
So I saw that you were born in Mumbai,
Hmm.
but you moved to New Zealand.
Yes.
So what was that? Was it for music purposes or was it just personal things?
Well, my parents moved here a year before I did. They came here in
Oh, okay.
2003. At the time, I was still in zero, so I was, having a really good time playing in a band and stuff like that. And
Okay.
over the next year, we kind of, won all the competitions that we had set out to do in that sense. Whatever goals we had as a band, I think we had kind of met. We had done 3 albums by the time, and I was looking for a change of pace. So I decided to come here and just have a look and see how things are. And I found it quite refreshing because, like, the local music scene is like very DIY in that sense. You kind of
Okay.
uh,
Okay.
have even less resources available to you than, like, say, in Bombay, where you go to a gig and
Hmm.
you have got backline and lights and a sound mix and everything at the gig already. You just show up with your instruments and you play. Whereas here, you kind of, a lot of gigs involve bands taking their own PA and, lights, and, everything's more DIY. So
Oh,
also, like, there's no Bollywood here, right? So in that sense, there's no
yeah.
distraction of all the best musicians just ending up in service of film music. So
Hmm.
I found it quite, refreshing at the time. So I decided, okay, cool. I'm gonna, I landed here with just my guitar and amp and some clothes in a backpack. But, but thankfully,
So
like,
you
my
like the music? Yeah.
yeah, it's very good fun. It's a lot smaller because of the population, obviously.
Hmm.
In that
Yeah,
sense,
yeah,
I
yeah.
kind of miss the crowd that you get in at a typical gig in Bombay.
Do you like the DIY type of thing, or do you prefer more of the electronic music? What's your music preference in terms
I
of that?
I don't really have a preference. The preference I have is basically anything that has, either a good melody or a good groove or
You
some
can be
interesting
practical.
chords and stuff. As long as there's something of substance in it, I gravitate to it. So I don't really have any genre preferences because I've worked on, like, a variety of genres over the course of a professional career. I think I started off, like, playing, blues and rock when I was a kid. So I
Okay,
guess
okay.
that's where my roots lie.
Oh, okay. Blues and rock.
Yeah.
Is there any particular musician or something that you take inspiration from?
Probably the Beatles, I would think.
You like classical, not classical, like you like the more old bands and
Well,
Queen. Maybe I've heard of.
I am old, so, like, when I was, like, young, it
Well,
was not that old. But yeah, all the 60s and 70s stuff, that was like the first kind of thing I got into when I was a kid.
okay.
So yeah.
Do you like the new type of music being made these days? Like if you see in the Bollywood movies and all that, Pathan, Jawan, and all those type of
Well,
um
I played on
songs.
some of that stuff, so, it's all sorts. I mean, as long as there's a good tune, man, you can find a good tune anywhere. I don't really have genre. It's more down to the song itself.
I have met some pretty picky people in terms of that. So you're much different from that. It's nicer. It's more refreshing to hear that. But so your band, the Blackstratblues, how did it start out? What
It's
year? How was it?
it's without the, actually, it's just Blackstratblues, one word.
Oh, Blackstratblues. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry.
It started off, basically as a solo project. When I first moved here, I didn't really have anyone to jam with. So my brother and me, we had a garage studio at our parents' old house, and we just started, recording some stuff. And he said, "Do you have anything that needs, like, drums? Because I'm quite good at drum programming." So I was like, "Yeah, I've got these unfinished tunes, and, we could look at putting some drums on that." And he did a really good job, I have to say. So that kind of inspired me to finish that first album. That came out in 2007, and we did our first live gig, 2009. And
Okay.
around 2012, the current lineup, which is Jairo Kavi on drums, Adi Mystery on bass, Bevan Fonseca on keyboards, and myself on guitar, that's solidified. So that's been the lineup since then.
Is there any particular type of moving on to stories, as I said,
Hmm.
we any particular type of like I know you don't like attention and the spotlight thing and all that, but is there any type of thing where a fan recognized you and any type of interaction, something like that that you can share?
There's heaps of those, but uh, I mean, I always stick around at the end of a gig to say hi to, whoever wants to come and say
Hmm.
hi, in that sense. So
Yeah.
I'm not, like, reclusive or something in that sense. As long as, people treat you like another person, like a normal person, and not like some kind of a exalted, figure on a pedestal or something like that. So all that shit. So as long
Okay.
as they speak to you normally like a person, I'm like, I've had heaps of very meaningful interactions with people who, I wouldn't call them fans, just people who like what I do. So the good thing, at least for us, is that the audience has remained engaged with what we do. They always show up to gigs, and because a lot of music can be fickle, like you listen to it and then next year you're on to something else, that's like flavor of the month kind of a thing. But
Mm-hmm.
luckily we seem to have a small but very dedicated audience, which I'm very appreciative of.
You
And
get good engagement.
yeah, I mean, I've seen like people cover some songs. There was one guy who did a cover with his mom playing the veena and him playing the guitar. That was quite cool. And people send
Okay.
me like heaps of these things that on like Instagram, like I covered one of your songs and stuff. And for me, it's really cool because here's something that you did that has translated over to another musician, and they like it enough to learn it and learn how to play it. And
Hmm.
there are people who tell me that the music has helped them out through difficult times and stuff like that. So that's something I definitely appreciate, because I predominantly make the music for myself. I have to like it
Okay.
first, and then the very fact that other people also kind of latch onto that and appreciate it, that makes me quite grateful.
Was there any particular type of like, because you started at a pretty young age, you started when you were 5 years old. But to make that your entire career and become a musician, was there any particular type of at point in your life where you were like, okay, I want to do this as a career?
I
Like,
just knew I liked doing it.
it's
Um,
always just been
yeah, and there've been periods where like it's been on the back seat. Like there've been other things that have been the priority, but it's always like taking away at the background. It's like almost like a tap that you can't shut off. So
okay.
I I would think like I don't really have a choice but to do it.
Okay.
And I think most like lifetime musicians would tell you that, guys who've been doing it for a long time, it's like you just can't stop doing it. In
It's
whatever way
just
you do it, it's just there, that it needs to, flow out of you.
it sounds philosophical, but it's very, very relatable for musicians like you that it's just a part of my life. But
Yeah.
normal crowd will never be able to like relate to it or whatever.
Yeah, it's not like, plumbing or something like that you can,
Yeah.
decide how to be a plumber and, make it a career.
Mm.
It's like, that there'll be times where it's your predominant, your main source of income, and at times like there'll be other things that have to supplement it. But on the
Yeah.
whole, I think like I've been quite lucky in that sense.
So out of the entire all the songs that you guys have made, is there any particular one that's stood out that you like a
Um,
lot?
there've been heaps. There's one song called Focus 3. I really like playing live because every time it's very open to improvisation. So it gives us a lot
Okay.
of room to stretch out and just, move things in directions we've never gone before. In terms of like crowd favorites, there's a couple. There's one called Ode to a Sunny Day, and another one called North Star, that people love, and also another one called Anuva Sky. So I guess those three songs we
Okay.
pretty much have to play at every gig, otherwise there'll be some disappointed people in the crowd.
How many songs do you usually play in one show? Like,
Um, Normally, like in a 2 hour set, we end up playing around 16 songs, because there'll be a couple of
oh,
them which
60.
which go like to like 10 minutes long or something like that. On
Okay,
on,
yeah.
on average, I would
Wait, 10
say.
minutes long.
Yeah, there's like "Ode to a Sunny Day" kind of, I don't know if you listen to the live versions, but uh, you'll probably get a better idea of what we do live, with those two live albums that came out last year. So
Okay.
there's a couple of songs that, yeah, we do get to stretch out, and they turn into like long chunks. So on an average, I would say like a 2 hour gig would be around 16 songs.
What's the role of the crowd when you have that? I think I saw a live performance where you were telling them to claps of the hands and then you were playing the guitar in it. But
Yeah.
other than that, how's it been with the crowd? Like your chemistry with the crowd?
It's always like a two-way reaction, right? You're putting out energy into them, and then they are flinging it back at you. So it's like this
Yeah, yeah.
cycle that keeps going on. There have been gigs where, not necessarily Blackstratblues ones, but I've played gigs where like the crowd has been very, quiet and reserved and stuff like that. So it's almost like you have to try twice as hard in those situations. And when you get on stage and they're already, in a great mood, it just sets the vibe for a good performance. Like, you can have technical stuff going wrong and stuff like that, but it doesn't really bother you if the crowd's on your side and they're like, totally
Yeah.
into it.
It's
But
about
there's been times like where the amp's blown a fuse or something and it just didn't matter,
oh,
you just recover from
they
that.
don't care. They're like, yeah, sure,
Yeah, yeah,
no
the
worries.
drum solo or something like that happens.
Okay, yeah. That's another improvisation that you
Yeah,
might have meant for that. But yeah. So what do you do when the crowd's reserved like that? Like, how do you deal with that?
we finish the gig and get the fuck out of there.
I like that. I like that. I like that. But those are not usually you don't enjoy that.
No, I mean there's certain times where you can like give it a little bit extra grunt and just see if that gets a reaction. It's almost like, you got to just poke
Does
them
that
a little
work?
bit and get them to wake up. Yeah, it does sometimes.
They do? Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
and if it doesn't, then you're like, okay, cool. I guess wrong person to be at this gig. Which
Wait,
is
why do you think there's a reserved? Is there an age difference or something like that? Any
people are
particular?
people, man. I don't know. Maybe their country lost the cricket match that day or something. Who knows?
That's kind of a lot of people listening right now must relate to it.
Yeah.
But even though you don't have like a preferred genre of music or whatever, I have I've heard songs like I'll tell you my story first, just to give you an idea why I'm asking this. I have never been the type of person to get emotional to songs. I usually, I mean, now I think my EQ's developed a bit as I've grown up. I feel the emotion of the song, but before it used to be like, it's a nice song, it's a sad song, never listen to the lyrics and all that. But then, uh, I don't even think anyone has cried to the song except me. It's by Ed Sheeran. It's called Lego House. And have you heard it?
No, I haven't heard that particular Ed Sheeran song. My daughter likes
You
quite a
should.
few of his songs, so
Mhm. You should listen to Lego House. I don't know how you would like it, but I don't know why I cried to it. I was a very little kid. I was like 10, 11 years old. And I think it was a music video that did the effect for me. That I was just looking, I think it was Rupert Grint or someone looking like him. He was playing a lonely guy who was a big fan of Ed Sheeran. No reason to cry once again, just a lonely fan trying to go behind his face. And I ended up sobbing, like literally getting hiccups and sobbing to that song. And I remember having to go down for dinner. Like, what happened? Just for this song. And so lonely. And I don't know why I ended up crying. But so that's what I'm saying. Have you ever had that type of moment where you've heard a song and really emotionally connected with it?
yeah, I mean, down to like the stuff when I was a kid, that still, brings back good memories in that sense when I listen to the Beatles and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, I can't really think of like one particular, or maybe actually,
You can give a few.
there was this one song by Jeff Buckley called "Lover You Should Have Come Over." And like I was just like very sometimes like you can just listen to how beautifully things are produced or arranged or whatever you
Mm.
want to call it. And just like sonically it it takes you to a certain place or whatever. There's lots of like stay Steely Dan and stuff like that, where the lyrics just uh, they're kind of very abstract in a way, but they're so cool and the way they flow, I mean there'll be like maybe a guitar sound that Hendrix had on a particular song just gives you like the warm fuzzies, things like that.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean I remember like there was like this one Pat Metheny album as well called Still Life Talking, that there was a song on that called Last Train Home, and that really kind of hit home on because I used to like take the late train home sometimes after gigs, because
Mm.
when we started playing we didn't really have disposable income for cabs and stuff like that, so you
Okay,
have to try
okay.
and finish in time to catch the last train home. and that kind of brought back a lot of those memories. A lot of songs
Wow.
can make you time travel, back to a certain point, especially once you've lived a few years. It can just take you back
I can relate, yeah.
like very quickly, that
But
faster than anything can. Maybe a sense of smell as well is a similar thing. But yeah, it's cool like how you
yeah,
can
yeah, actually.
there'll be certain things like you haven't thought about in years, and then maybe some song will come on and like instantly you remember it like that.
It has been like that. Yeah. I For me it's like the smell of perfume, a particular type of perfume. But then I'm also pretty triggered, but I'm like, so I need to not get too used to this smell because I might not find that perfume again.
Yeah.
And then I'll be like, where the memory is gone after that? Because sometimes it's only one thing. No music, no nothing, just perfume over there. I
There's one
have a
there's one smell I distinctly remember missing is that like across the road from my house where I grew up in Dada, there was this
yeah,
big open maidan, like a field. And
okay,
every year around my birthday time, my birthday is in September, so the Ganesh pandal would be erected, and they had those jute things that they would drape across the bamboo. So I can
yeah.
distinctly remember that smell. So if I ever
Oh.
smell that, like it's boom, instant
The
trigger.
jute, the jute. What's the smell?
Yeah, that
Like,
thick cloth they put right on top of the pandal to make the thing. They put a bamboo
oh,
framework
okay.
and then they put that jute on top. Yeah,
Ha ha.
it's
Right,
got a
right,
very
right, right.
distinctive smell. Yeah, so just
I,
thinking of
I I haven't smelled it, but yeah. For me, it's just what is this? Cabo teen. I remember. So basically, my story is like I've been shifting back and forth from US and India a lot. So now I think we're gonna be living more in India only because it's been getting exhausting. But when I used to, I remember my mom has never been much of a party animal. But when she used to go out and I used to get my alone time in the house, there was this distinct perfume. I don't know what that is. Shores, Grays or something. She used to apply the perfume and she used to be like, bye, beta. And she used to go. Just that same thing getting repeated over a course of 4 5 years. Now, every time I smell the perfume, I'm like, oh, those days, those days, those days. So, one last question before we end this off. Actually, one question and one sub question.
yeah.
So, when you're listening to a song and you're thinking about the music and all that, is it the music that complements the lyrics? Like if there's a music, but the lyrics are not as full of life, then the what do you call that? The tune will make it better. Or if the tune is not as interesting, but the lyrics will just make the song more memorable. What do you think?
You answer this. Does the dal complement the rice or the rice complements the dal?
I don't know.
You got to have them together. It's the overall experience, I think, that makes it.
Okay.
I mean, I
I
don't
was
really
thinking you would say
dissect
that
it
you.
that much unless I'm working on that song itself. But if I'm
Okay,
listening
okay.
as a listener, I tend to listen as like a complete holistic thing.
I really thought you would say a tune because you said that it's more focused your band on the progressions and all that. So I
Yeah.
was like,
That's
but
as a songwriter, what I'm saying as a listener.
as a listener, from the listener side, I think it's all more of a collective thing, right?
Yep, totally.
So ending off our really an episode that's gone really well. What is an advice you would give to a upcoming musician who wants to make it big, or not just make it big in terms of being a better musician?
Yeah.
What is just an advice you would give to them?
I mean, nothing that hasn't been said already. Like, stay dedicated, don't lose focus. Listen to as many different genres and influences as you can. Steal from everybody, not from just one person. Forget about uh, the whole achieving, things in terms of fame and whatever. Just focus on putting out good music. Network, make friends with other musicians who are like-minded as well. Um, Try and get your music out there. I guess, you got to do the whole social media game and everything like that.
Yeah,
At least that's what
definitely.
it's like these days. But focus on putting out good music if you are in the business of writing songs and stuff like that. Otherwise, try and network and play with musicians who are better than yourself. It sounds easier said than done, but maybe if you're like in a small town and there's no one there, then you may want to consider moving to a bigger city where the talent pool is bigger, and then you can
Okay.
meet with.
Sankarang, this,
Sorry.
Sankarang, with the people who are you with, you end up
Yeah.
becoming a little bit like that.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's just to keep getting better, you kind of have to just seek out, the opportunities to play with people who are better than you.
Well said, sir. I mean, yeah, that was pretty much all, and I didn't really prepare much for this interview because I had a feeling that for the type of person you are, not judging, but I think I would automatically get more and more questions to ask you. And that's kind of how it's been. I didn't plan this at all, but yeah, it's been really fun having you. Yeah,
It's
this
my
is
pleasure.
my pleasure as well. I mean, having you here. Yeah, this is Mr. Warren Mendoza on the Novus Show. And yeah, so it was a pleasure having you. So thank you so much for taking out the time.
Thank you so much. See you.